So you really have to hit it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2024 NFL season. They said it couldn't be done. They said I couldn't make a show that would be watched by literally tens of people and anticipated by literally 3, but I've done it, and I've done it for 6 years. I'm back for season 6, and I am so glad to have you back with me. We are departing into uncharted waters because in the entire time I've done this ridiculous video series, Kirk Cousins has always been the quarterback. He is now a Falcon, and the Vikings are trying to figure out what they're doing at quarterback. But of course, I don't want to get ahead of myself with all the Vikings and gibberish. The third wheel of this tricycle is the brewing, and I'm very excited because I'm going to at least be starting the season off, maybe the first few weeks, with a brewery or a meadery that was recommended to me by Jim, my coach at the gym, who is awesome, and he is the reason that this slab of unsalted butter has become the very likeness of Adonis that you see before you. It is White Bear Meadery in White Bear Lake or Maplewood, Minnesota. I'm starting off the week with their boysenberry mead. I was really torn between which flavor to start with, but I went with this one because I felt like it kind of resembled the logo for this show. Our Boysenberry Melomel is a craft honey wine mead with Oregon boysenberries and Minnesota-grown wildflower honey. Experience this rich blackberry tasting berry mead. This ancient libation was once called ambrosia of the gods by the Greeks. In Viking mythology, mead was believed to be the reward for warriors that reached Valhalla. Naturally gluten-free, 12% alcohol by volume, and it says this one is a bit on the sweet side. I poured a glass here. It's probably going to be hard to see given the lighting situation in here, but it's a very dark, rich red color. Friends, for the first time in the 2024 season, skull feeleth there. Oh, we're back. It's very sweet, which shouldn't come as a surprise. It's made from honey. The label says sweet. Very sweet. The fruit is very potent, but I actually do still get quite a fair taste of the honey. I have a lot of growth to do in the mead industry before I really kind of know what I'm tasting, but it does have a very jammy raspberry richness to it. Definitely glad I poured one of these and not one of the Steins. That would be a lot. I do want to mention, and I'll probably talk about it again in the future when I have some more of these, very cool tasting room. I'll probably throw it up here behind me. They really leaned into the Viking theme. Seems like a great place to go and enjoy some mead. I just kind of passed through and grabbed some bottles to go so I could review them with all of you. White Bear Meadery in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Okay, I really struggled with where to start this week's episode because, again, the Vikings are off the map here. I have had years to kind of look at what the Viking situation is at quarterback and analyze where they need to work to build the team around him, where do they need to get stronger. And frankly, there's been this whole debate of are the Vikings rebuilding or not for the last kind of couple years since Kwesi and KOC took over. I mean, it hasn't been a total like tanking rebuild, but they've been moving pieces. They've been moving on from some of the kind of the older guys that were here from the Zimmer days. I'm not sure, but I think like Harrison Smith is the only one left. Daniil Hunter is gone now. He's a Texan, but the Vikings signed Jonathan Grenard, who himself was a Texan, to kind of replace him, as well as Andrew Van Ginkel, and then picking up Dallas Turner, the defensive end, in the draft. Of course, the Vikings also picked up J.J. McCarthy, a quarterback, in the first round of the draft. He played in one game of the preseason and then is due to miss the rest of the season with a meniscus injury that has been successfully repaired. So we have next season to look forward to. But now that leaves us with 2024. A lot of people, a lot of Vikings fans, were already kind of writing the Vikings off this season, assuming that Sam Darnold would be the starter for, at least the first half of the season while McCarthy got up to speed, and then maybe he could, take over at the end of the season, get us some stuff to be excited about, and then be ready for 2025. But I wasn't really ready to write the season off. The Vikings still have a talented roster. Yes, TJ Hawkinson is out for the beginning of the season with his own knee injury. The secondary is a problem, but the Vikings still have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and it seems like his court date isn't exactly imminent, so we expect to have him for the whole season. Really, the roster is very similar to last year's, minus Cousins, but Cousins missed about half the season with a knee injury. The Vikings had a rough year last year. I'm not sure how many people remember, because it was marred with Jefferson missing multiple weeks, Cousin missing the second half of the season. A few people, especially in the national media, will acknowledge that Cousins was playing lights out football the first several weeks of the season, like week 1 through 7 or whatever, was playing very, very well. But the Vikings had the really bizarre run of turnovers, specifically fumbles the first 3 weeks, that cost them, I would say, 3 not easy wins, but 3 very achievable victories, and most of that roster is returning. I'm now left struggling with what to do with Sam Darnold. I was not a fan of his when he got drafted by the Jets, but I wouldn't say he's really ever had his fair shake. I believe when he was a Jet, his head coach was Adam Gase, who I don't know if you can find anybody to defend Adam Gase after his track record. Spent time with the 49ers, but they already had their starter locked up, and now he's a Viking. What gives me a little bit of excitement for the Vikings still is that there are people way smarter than me about football who will point to how quarterback-friendly Kevin O'Connell's offensive system is. Just looking at what he did last year after Cousins went out, slapping together some really exciting stat lines for Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall and Josh Dobbs, and I'm not forgetting somebody, but I'm sure I am. He did a lot with a little. And I think having had a whole offseason to prepare Sam Darnold for this role, for this setting, and knowing that Sam Darnold does have talent, or he wouldn't have been drafted in the first round, I'm kind of optimistic that the Vikings can at least make an interesting season out of this. I don't think it's a secret that I'm not a fan of tanking. I think if we start to look at football as if we're the GMs or the coaches or whatever, it starts to take the joy out of the game. So I will never root for tanking so long as there's a chance that we can be competitive. Our chances got slightly better when Jordan Love unfortunately injured his knee. I believe it's an MCL sprain, and somewhere from 3 to 6 weeks he's expected to miss. I believe the Packers are currently the taste of the NFC North with their decent defense, plethora of passing options, talented quarterback, and Josh Jacobs hopefully can be the answer for them at running back. Love being out definitely impacts that quite a bit. The Bears are a giant unknown. They reloaded in the offseason. They took Caleb Williams and they kept DJ Moore. They signed Keenan Allen from the Chargers. They picked up Roma Dunze in the draft. They picked up a bunch of defensive talent. The Bears could be an entirely different team than years previous. I'm hesitant to buy into that because they're still the Bears, and for most of my memorable football watching life, they haven't really been that great. And then we have the Lions, who I believe are, the odds-on favorite to win the NFC North, and I would have to check, but I have to imagine, given their run last year, they're probably one of the top teams that are favored to make it to the Super Bowl. I think they're pretty thin. I think, if you look at their team, if they lose Amon-Ra St. Brown and or Sam Laporta, or if if Goff gets injured, I don't know that team has enough talent beyond their studs to really compete deep into the offseason. They do have a really good defense, and of course I'm rooting for them because as a team that also hasn't really tasted that sweet victory at the top, the Lions have had it way worse. It's been a fun offseason listening to the national media analyzing the NFC North and talking about what a tough division it is, and I absolutely believe it is. I think the Bears are going to be better. I think the Lions are going to be good. I'm not sure what happens to the Packers, and a lot of it hinges on Jordan Love. I think they could be the best team. But the same is true with the Vikings. I don't know what our quarterback situation holds, but if it can shape up, if KOC can get even like above average quarterback play out of Darnold, I think we have the playmakers, including Aaron Jones. I didn't even talk about how we have Aaron Jones now. I believe we have the playmakers to surprise a lot of people. All that being said, it would not surprise me at all if the Vikings go into the Meadowlands and lose to Danny Dimes and the Giants in their interesting throwback uniforms. I think the Vikings have a lot of gelling to do. I think they have a lot of soul searching to do. Their defense is unproven, but it's kind of one of those very beatable object versus a very movable force or a very stoppable force kind of matchups. Daniel Jones, the quarterback, has not looked great, but the Vikings secondary also isn't that great. I am hoping that the Vikings defensive front, with Dallas Turner, the rookie, and Van Ginkel and Grenard, can get some pressure on Daniel Jones, make him make some mistakes, get the ball. I would love to see Darnold lighting it up with Addison and Jefferson this week. I'm not going to totally be watching it through the gaps in my fingers. I think this could actually be an interesting game for the Vikings. I think it's a winnable game. I hope they win it because, and I will close on this, I think Pro Football Focus, I'm not sure, it could be a different source. The Vikings are currently projected to have the 5th toughest strength of schedule in the league. That's not great for a team that's definitely in flux. It'll be interesting. All right, everybody. Try to keep it short and sweet, just like this little glass of mead. Once again, thank you, White Bear Meadery, for this delicious, rich sip of honey wine. Skål för lite. And go Vikings.